Yeah.
Okay, you're good to go.
Great. Welcome everyone to our press conference today. I want to thank our media partners who are joining us for this hybrid press conference. I want to welcome those in our community who are viewing this event via YouTube Live. We all wish that we could be providing this media opportunity in person, and we appreciate your understanding and flexibility. And we hope that we are providing the best possible alternative to celebrate a very important day for the Madison Metropolitan School District. I would like to just lay out the format of today's event for the benefit of our news media partners who are joining us. It is important for us to get everyone's questions. However, because our audience is virtual today, and to eliminate the potential of people talking over each other, we are going to have our moderator, Tim Lamont, call on each reporter individually. We ask that each reporter ask all of their questions in the entirety before we move on to the next. After your turn, if you have any follow-up questions, please message Lamont, and we will, through Zoom Messenger, and he will work to put you back in the lineup. So we will move on to the reason why we are all here, and this is to introduce our new superintendent. As I have mentioned before, hiring a superintendent is the biggest decision any Board of Education makes. And we are very excited to have had the opportunity to make the decision to select Dr. Carlton Jenkins as our next superintendent. Ever since we made this announcement, there has been an excitement and positive energy that has resonated throughout our school community. All of us here today share in that excitement, and we are eager to work in relationship with Dr. Jenkins to really begin to affect change and move the needle towards academic achievement for each and every student. Dr. Jenkins is transitioning during a critical time for our community. We are very fortunate to have a strong leader with extensive experience leading the complexities of a large school district and a focus on collaboration to move us through the challenges of COVID-19 and virtual learning. On behalf of the Board of Education, it is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce to you, Superintendent of Schools for the Madison Metropolitan School District, Dr. Carlton Jenkins. Welcome home, Dr. Jenkins.
Wow, this is really exciting for me. Thank you, Gloria, for that warm welcome. That's been the type of welcome that I've been receiving ever since I've come back home here in Madison to continue on my journey of educating all of our children. Being the superintendent of a school district is a very tremendous opportunity and responsibility as we try to serve our communities to the best of our abilities. So to that end, I would like to say thank you to the Madison community for demonstrating trust in myself to lead this wonderful staff as we continue on our journey and trying to build upon the momentum that has already started here in Madison, Wisconsin, a very fine place, I must add, to provide our children with the type of education and experience that they truly deserve. With that said, I would like to thank all the board members in the room here with me today and not in the room for their continued support of myself and the work that needs to happen here in Madison Metropolitan School District. They've been wonderful with their support and their enthusiasm about what it is that we're getting ready to do in Madison, Wisconsin. Really looking forward to that. Also, I would be remiss if I did not thank my transition team, because it was only nearly 4 weeks ago when this decision was made. And on that transition team is my very lovely wife, Lisa, my daughter, Jasmine, and my 8-month-old grandson, Bronze, as we're trying to now list our home and find residents here in the Madison School District so we can continue with the work that I've been doing right now for over 30 years. Also, I would like to thank you, the media, for being here today and the work that you are going to do and you have done to try to uplift the positive things that our staff are doing on a daily basis and all the other community partners and what they're doing. You're very important to us educating our children. It truly takes everyone. So I want to say thank you for that. Also, and to the Madison Metropolitan School District staff, a staff that has long had a reputation for years. When I first started here some decades ago, the staff has always stood up and did what was right for children. Many of my life lessons and many of my professional lessons come right out of Madison, Wisconsin. The way that individuals really did approach the whole idea that all children matters. So, and I'll speak to that a little bit more later, but I also want to say thank you to all those dedicated individuals in our community that over the years have shown their support for Madison Metropolitan School District. This has been a place where the American idea can live out, that we're a nation of ideas, that we can too challenge one another and we can work together and find a way. That's the American way. Let me start by saying, coming to Madison for me, it's like returning home. As I mentioned earlier, this is the place where I was educated, receiving my master's and my doctorate out of UW-Madison, a place that embraced me and my ideas and sometimes my challenging ideas in my belief that all children and all people really and truly do matter. And then in Madison Metropolitan School District, as I mentioned, it was a place where I grew up understanding that all students, if a student had an IEP, that student mattered. If that student was a student who was Hmong, they mattered. If that student was African-American, they mattered. It was a place where I come to understand if you were a child who were very special and had advanced learning needs, you mattered. This was a place where all mattered. And we had our challenges, but at the same time, we came together and worked through that. So I am very pleased to be returning home. The city of Madison, for me, welcomed me then and they welcome me now. And I am so appreciative of that. And I can't say enough. I know I thank the board, but I say thank you again to the board for the way that they have taken this opportunity during these unprecedented times to allow me to come back home to assist in serving for what we have to do. I've worked in education leadership positions all over the Midwest, and it's widely known that Madison is a leader. Madison has always been a leader and will continue to be a leader. And now during these unprecedented times of COVID-19, civic unrest, the racial tensions that we're seeing, Madison's stepping up, and what an opportunity for us. When you look at our core goals, and we're talking about preparing our students for college and careers and community, it is community right now that we're really focusing on, and it's going to take the collaboration of everyone to get us to where we need to go. So I say to that, as I've seen in my journeys across the Midwest, when it needs to be done, Madison was always a place that individuals look to. And this time would be no different, as we would be bold as we take on this work. It is on that note, I also would be remiss if I didn't just acknowledge here today, this moment is a special moment because we also have some challenges. We know that we have some of the largest disparities, not only in the state, but in the country. And because Madison's rising up and saying, we will take the lead, no more. All of our children, we're going to remove the barriers for those children to be able to succeed, to gain access to higher levels of learning, higher levels of well-being, taking on the social, emotional, and mental health challenges. But we as a district can't do this by ourselves. We're going to need the continued support of this community. And this has been a wonderful community, and this community has taken on challenges before. Here we stand with the #1 public institution, university, right here in our yard, not in our backyard, not in our front yard, in our yard. And we're in this fight together. And I say to our community people, we need you now more than we ever needed you before to step up on behalf of our children. As superintendent, I know firsthand the challenges that have been faced by our district during these unprecedented times. And during these times, we've had a leader, Dr. Belmore, who stepped up. She pulled the staff together. This staff has worked tirelessly to make sure, yes, we were in unprecedented times, but our children continued to receive the services that they needed from our staff. recognizing that the challenges that we're facing are health challenges. This COVID-19 has changed the way that we look at a lot of things. So our staff on the fly had to change their practices. They did what they did. The Zoom meetings, some starting very early, some ending very late. Tirelessly, they continued to go back and try to serve our children. But we also acknowledge that during COVID-19, there were many children and some who were most likely losing out during a traditional setting, even became further behind. But our staff, we've come together over the summer and we're looking forward to this fall, how we're going to try to even narrow that gap between those who have and those who don't have to make this experience better for all children. As a school district, though we know our reality right now is stronger than what we were when we started with this crisis, we're looking to move forward, to continue to move forward with the momentum that we've built, to make sure that we keep at the front of what we're doing is human dignity. That's a part of our belief, and we believe that our effort in our schools, the essence of it must be about human dignity, and that human dignity will guide our work. My vision is a district where all students have a guaranteed right to participate and have access for all the opportunities in Madison Metropolitan School District. It is a fundamental demand of social justice and a requirement of human dignity that all participate. And when we say all, we mean all participate. Our collective charge as leaders and as staff is to provide a nurturing community for all of our families and children so our students can reach their full potential. That's what we're looking forward to. I look forward to the opportunity to work closely with the faculty and the staff of each school to support them in removing barriers so that our teachers can do the work that they do, demonstrate their level of expertise, and making sure that our children are socially, emotionally intact, making sure that their mental health is intact, and at the same time that they're learning at high levels. Yes, also as a superintendent, and under the conditions of which we are beginning the school year, I recognize there will be many challenges that we will face together. These are unprecedented challenges, but for us, the good thing we've been through this crisis learning, now it's time to online learning where all students can have a different experience and they can be in control of their learning. We're asking that our parents and our community work with us as we're driven at this particular point to make sure that we turn the online learning into a place of academic excellence. We know that we have serious gaps, and we invite our families to work with us in closing these achievement gaps. And not only just the achievement gaps, but the gaps that we have right now between excellence and non-excellence for all students. No matter the level of the students, we want to individually make sure we address that students. Our education community is only made stronger by active participation in student learning. Once we have student voice, we have parent voice, we have community voice. And it will also be a priority for us to look for ways to engage our parents, not by just asking you to come in, but we're going to be going into the community as well to listen to you. This year is going to be spent with our students, with our staff, with our parents, and with our community, listening a lot about what do we need to do? What did we learn from last spring over these last several months that we can enhance the opportunities for our students? There is incredible strength in community and diversity, and it is in these strengths we will lean on one another to make our district a better district and to make our community a better community. As superintendent, we will continue on the momentum that we built thus far. We will continue to lean on the legacy of Madison, and we will chart new paths by being bold, by breaking down some of those barriers that have not been so good for a lot of our populations of students to take Madison to a whole nother level. So having said that, I want to thank you for sharing this experience here today in this hybrid press conference, which is very different for all of us, but it's also just a way of the new way of dealing with COVID-19 as we have to. And we're going to show our students this isn't the first time that we've had to make some changes in how we do business, because over the years there have been many things and we've come out of it stronger. And I say to the entire community, please join us as we prepare to move Madison Metropolitan School District forward and build upon the momentum that's already there. At this time also, I would like to say I'm willing to take questions. This is my second day on the job. So when you ask your questions, be generous at this point, but nevertheless, ask your questions because we want to have the opportunity to hear what's on your mind so we can get back to you with our response. Even though I've only been on the job 2 days, trust me when I say that the staff have provided me with much information over these last 3.5 weeks, and I look forward to answering your questions at this time.
Thank you. Sorry. Scott Gerard. That's not going to work.
Yeah, hi, thank you, Dr. Jenkins. It's nice to meet you as far as meeting goes right now. First of all, what have you learned in your first day and a half or over the last month as you've prepared to enter this role?
You know, this has been a great opportunity to come in to just listen to individuals. I've really learned that there are a lot of awesome individuals within our district. Sometimes when you go in as a superintendent, the first thing you want to do is try to assess some of the talent around you, and you want to look at some of the student data, and you want to make sure that you have an alignment, at least the capacity to make necessary changes or refine some of the practices. I've found that we have an outstanding group of people, very intelligent, very committed. I found that we have a community that's very supportive, very committed. I've had an opportunity to speak with students, and I found out that our students too, they do have a voice. We have some sharp students here. So the first 3.5 weeks, I would say those are the main things that I've been able to observe in my time.
Thank you. What would you say are your top priorities for the 2020-21 school year?
Unapologetically, it's going to be looking at ways that we can improve our reading scores, finding out how we can take the resources that we currently have. And I'm getting a lot of feedback, so I'm sorry in my response, but so in making sure that we take the resources that we have, we align them properly to get the most information to make decisions about our future. This is a serious situations where we have some wonderful things going on in our district, but we recognize we have some challenges as well, and we want to spend our energy during this first year listening and then prioritizing for the next level. We have some short-term goals, but we're looking long-term. So we don't want to just react to what we think we see. We want to get deep understanding. So if I had to say to you, this year, I think it's going to be important for us to assess things together and make recommendations for the priorities moving forward.
Thank you. I'm hearing some of that feedback too, but I think I got most of that answer, so I appreciate it. So obviously, you know, you mentioned sort of the unprecedented times that the education world is in and the challenges that are here as you navigate move to virtual learning and everything this fall. How will you handle sort of coming in midstream as some of these plans are sort of partly underway and partly being carried out, and you now have to lead virtual learning, things like the transition from no school resource officers? How do you plan to navigate that?
Well, with the whole idea of the unprecedented times and dealing with online learning, my district in Minnesota, we were the first district to close schools in the state of Minnesota. And so we have been working on online learning actually for the past 3 years, so we could draw from that knowledge. And we've done a lot of work to now lead in Minnesota, but also to lead around the country. I've had superintendents from Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio that I've been learning from. They've been learning from me, many places. And so what we're finding during COVID-19, if you're here in Ohio, if you're in Ohio, if you're in Wisconsin, you're in Minnesota or Michigan, we're facing some of the same challenges. So we have collaborated with one another to make sure that everyone's providing our students with the best services. In each state, though, you have different guidelines that's coming out by your Department of Health or perhaps even your governor. And so we adjust. We know that this is a time that you're going to have to be able to pivot. But the thing that I'm most proud of coming here, this staff has done a wonderful job under the leadership of Dr. Belmore and this team in terms of the teachers and the administrators and working with the union. Madison is in a much better place than a lot of other places right now when you look around the country. The addition of the computers at the lower level for our elementary children, the attempt to try to provide additional childcare, just the collaboration that's taking place between the teachers, the administrators, and the community, and just the overall understanding. I think the board, in terms of giving that latitude, Madison's in a better place. So I will come in, listen, work with, and in fact, not come in and listen. I've been working it since the day I was announced to learn from this team in terms of some of the decisions that they've made so we can have a seamless transition. This wasn't done haphazardly. We thought about it, the board and I, the transition. And so I've been working with the team since the day I was announced about how we can continue with a smooth transition.
Thank you. That'll conclude my questions for now.
Next up, Logan Rogie with the State Journal.
Hi, first of all, I'd like to say welcome back to Madison, Dr. Jenkins, and I apologize if any of my questions are repetitive. I just got booted out of the press conference for a little bit after my internet went down. You know, I guess that's just how things go now in the age of COVID. But you know, I just wanted to first ask you about, on your first day yesterday, you visited the family of a Lowell elementary student who was physically restrained in a controversial incident this past December. Can you talk about what the visit involved and why it was a day one priority for you?
Well, first of all, thank you for welcoming me back. And I want to thank all the people again for welcoming me back to the community. And that particular question involved one of our students, and I have to give all credit to one of our chief of schools who's been working through the situation with the family. And when I came in, she shared with me that we had a situation in which she was going to reach back out to the family and ask me if I would be willing to just take a ride with her. And I wanted to get out into the community anyway. So it was an opportunity for me to get out and see the community and see the people in the community. The situation involving the restraint was, we had an elementary student situation, and I think sometimes things happen, and I can't speak to all of the details of it, but I know that there was some harm or repair needed to take place between a family and our school district. As I've been reading many things on the district, it's talked about the transparency, the trust, and just some repair needed to be taking place. And when she told me that it was a young child and there were parents who wanted to reestablish, the parents never said that they didn't want to deal with the school district. They just wanted to reestablish relationship and try to get understanding so that they can move forward. So I had a chance to go out, meet the parents. They were wonderful. I had a chance to meet this parent group, and I'm going to say the parents were African-American at one of our schools. And sometimes what's going on right now, all of us are on the edge. But this is a real situation where a parent had a narrative. There was a second narrative. And to myself, and as it was explained to me by one of our chiefs, we just want to repair the situation. So we went out, offered ourselves up, had a wonderful conversation with the young man, spoke to both the mother and the father, and they were wonderful people. I will tell you that Mr. and Mrs. Williams, I said to them yesterday, and I said here again, I offer my apologies for any time that we have a situation where a young child experience something, whether it's real or not. If it's a perception coming from the parents, we want to close that gap. And I think if we all take out time, all of us, because sometime in the media, some things are said that may not be accurate. But if we take our time to close the gap between what we thought happened and what really did happen, I think we all can move forward together. And I think I left the household with Ms. Stanford, our chief of schools, feeling better, and the mother. We all had a great conversation, and we wanted to make sure that that child started school this year, not with that on his mind of what happened last year. And we offered up a mentor for the kid, and we're going to work with that family to make sure that we do repair that situation. And so you mentioned the part about restraint. The board took a very serious action the other night in terms of when we're talking about restraints within the next 24 hours that individuals have to report that. And sometimes when staff get involved, not intentionally, I said sometimes, I'm not saying every time, but for the most part, most staff that I know over my 30 years, their intentions are not bad, but sometimes we have to make sure that the appropriate training is there for when staff do engage with students. And when that happens, it must be something to keep the students safe, keep the other children safe, and keep the adults safe in the room. So we just went out and had a conversation, and I'm feeling like we're going to continue to follow up with that family and make sure that we repair that relationship.
Thank you. And once again, please let me know if I'm repeating a question that had been asked when I wasn't able to, or when I wasn't viewing this press conference. But on the topic of building trust, how will you go about building trust and confidence in the school district?
I think pretty much what we're doing right now. We're going to have conversations. I don't expect everyone to agree with us because we are, as a district, when you start looking at our strategic framework that guides us, you look at our core beliefs, belonging, things of that nature that guides us, our strategic framework is pretty serious. When we talk about all students in goal 1 and 2, not only just being prepared for college and career and community, we have to mean that. We have to try to remove barriers so that all students who are aspiring to that, they can get there and go to. When we start talking about being in an environment that's safe, all students feeling that way, all adults feel that way, we have to mean that. So we have to stop and have these conversations. But that goal 3, intentionally, unapologetically saying that Black children and youth will excel. Historically, we know that there has been some real issues with African Americans, not only just here in Madison, throughout our country. We can go back to the beginning of American history. We have to tell that. We have to be open with people and be willing to have the tough conversation. Now, we made some progress, but there's still progress to come. I'm going to work with our community to be transparent, and I'm going to ask our community to take some responsibility in some of this too. We cannot change a school district just by the people in the school district. It's going to take some individuals from the community participating with us. So we're going to go out. I am personally going to be out listening and looking for opportunities to work with our community. I can't wait to have another conversation in our community. I just had one where I appreciate the Urban League and all the pastors coming together and giving a welcome to my whole family to the district. I'm looking to go out, meet with other groups, affinity groups, the Latinx community, the Hmong community, whichever community, I don't care. The LGBTQ community, whoever wants to meet with us and want to support our district, we're going to go out and we're going to build those relationships. And let me say this before I go out. I'm not saying that we're going to agree on everything, okay? I'm not saying that to you, so be clear about that. But we're going to come out and we're going to have the conversation. We're not going to shy away from tough conversations. That's the way we're going to go about building trust in Madison Metropolitan School District.
Thank you. So what would you say your top priorities will be for your first year on the job?
Yes, and I did mention that earlier, but that's perfectly fine. Maybe someone missed it. They stepped away to get a cup of coffee. It's going to be about reading, finding ways to move the needle, talking to our staff about what are the things that we have done. And we have some areas in which we have shown some increases, but what are going to be the things to move the needle for all of our children when it comes to reading? It's fundamental to everything else rising up, okay? And then in that, I want to look at the current resources that we have and how can we align them to get maximum results in every area. It's bigger, and I didn't say it the first time, but I have mentioned the fact of socio-emotional. You know, this is serious. The mental health piece, we're in COVID-19 right now. And trust me, I want our academics to move forward fast, but not at the expense of harming our children, harming our staff, and harming our community. I think that we're going to have to come together and make this a priority to understand as a part of our goals. When we talk about community, community is going to be big during this first year, that we reestablish trust with one another and move together in that area.
And as you're aware, school resource officers are being removed from the high schools for this upcoming year, and a subcommittee has been formed to discuss disparities in discipline, school safety, and security going forward. How do you envision safety without police in high schools?
Well, let me say this. If we understand our history, we haven't always had police officers in schools. Okay, they're in our society. We've come to a thinking, and having been a high school principal as well, that there was a time where we felt like this was the direction that we needed to go. But as we're moving forward now, we're thinking about ways, and there's clear evidence that there's a clear pipeline from schools to prison. Some of those behaviors that we take in schools, taking from what has been in our criminal justice system, taking those practices within the schools, we know that those have yielded negative results for our students, and predominantly our most vulnerable students and students of color. So when we're talking about removing, we're going to come back with a plan to look at how we invest in our restorative practices, justice within our schools, teachers, students, and staff. And we're going to have to engage parents in the community about what are the choices being made in schools, in our schools, and having the parents engage with us about how we can best serve their children. It's not just here in Madison, it's throughout the country. You're seeing a revisiting of this whole thought process of having resource officers in schools. And let me say, I know a number of resource officers. They're phenomenal. And as I understand, the ones that we had in our schools, it was phenomenal. They were phenomenal. It's not about the individuals. It's about the institutional thinking. It's not about police officers. It's about the institution. And I think we're at a point right now as a country that we have to rethink this whole idea of self-management and what does it mean for a community. And hopefully what we do in our schools will yield positive results that could be modeled for other programs within our community.
And on the topic of reopening schools, the Teachers Union, Madison Teachers Incorporated, has demanded in-person classes don't resume until 2 consecutive weeks without a positive coronavirus case in the county. Is that a benchmark you would support for when deciding when schools can reopen?
Well, no, I would not be able to really comment on that because I don't know the science or the evidence or the methodologies that they use to come up with those particular benchmarks. I lean on heavily right now the Department of Health. The Department of Health gives us the best advice around decisions that we're making concerning the health and well-being of our schools and in our society. You see right now, we're at a hybrid press conference with everyone wearing a mask, right? Socially distancing. Those recommendations didn't come from the school district. We're following what are considered to be best practices. And frankly speaking, we need to put it out there that we don't know really right now. We have no handle on this particular virus that we have out here in terms of COVID-19. We're learning more and more each day. We don't know when the vaccine is going to be up. So if MTI made that stance, they made it based upon whatever evidence they may have. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying I can't say co-sign on it or even go against it at this point. But we're going to be making decisions for our district. And I say our district, we talk about Madison Metropolitan School District based upon the evidence of the science and what's going to be good for our students. We will not put at risk any student, any staff, or any parent, any community person coming in our schools. So we have made a decision, and I think it was wonderful how the staff, and this was prior to my arrival, and Dr. Belmore led the way in terms of coming up with making that decision based upon the science. And as I talk to my colleagues around the country, and I'm talking about a lot of colleagues, a lot of superintendents, and if you look, some school districts have opened up, some have decided to send people back home. Right now, Gwinnett County, I don't know if you're familiar with that. If you're not, please Google it. I have colleagues who work in Gwinnett County, and it's pretty bad what happened. They're the largest district in state of Georgia, and they had people going in to work, and they have over 300 cases now. Now they had to change the practices. We don't want to do that. We want to take our time, be very methodical, listen to the science. When we open up again, you know, and we're all hopeful, we will open up based upon what's going to be in the best interest of our student, staff, and our parents in our community.
Thank you so much for the time. Those are all the questions I have today.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Logan. We'll go to Andrea Belling.
Hi, Dr. Jenkins. Happy to be here and good to meet you. I have one question. I've been really impressed by the 4-person Black, Indigenous, People of Color AVID team at East High School. And it sounds like they've found some really great ways to connect with their students despite COVID with social emotional learning opportunities. And I just wondered, do you see this time as an opportunity or part of your vision to reevaluate what counts as learning and how we measure academic success and specifically the role of testing?
Well, let me say, first of all, thank you for that question. And that question is spot on as we look at the fact right now with these unprecedented times, learning is always important, but we have to reevaluate what is learning, right? For the good of human decency, our students have gained in a lot of ways that we don't necessarily assess through our state testing. I understand we need to benchmark and see where our students are so we can pivot as necessary so that they can be globally competitive. But it's also important during this time when individuals are losing their jobs. I mean, this is serious. Individuals are losing their family members. There's a lot of stress going on right now with all of us right now. And at first, you heard of someone who may have tested positive COVID-19. Now, for the most part, all of us know someone or have someone directly in your family. So when we're talking about dealing with the socio-emotional piece, for some of our students who are at home trying to do online learning, they have several siblings that they're helping out as well. Well, they're doing it, and we should do it because we all should participate in doing our part. But that student's socio-emotional well-being need to be taken care of. So this is why across the country, I've seen us doing these virtual mental health check-ins with students. This social distancing has been difficult on us because we're human beings. We like to touch, we like to see one another. With the mask, you can't even see the smiles going on. We need the smiles back. During the virtual meetings, our students can see us smile, we can see them, or if they're having challenges, we can talk them through it, student to student. I think this is the time that we do focus in on perhaps with some of the standards that we have, looking at it and saying, are we putting traditional assessments on students in an unprecedented way? I will be advocating here for that. I've advocated for that we revisit this whole notion right now of how we're doing assessments. When do we get back at it? Because there has truly been a loss of learning, but over time, our students will catch up with the learning. And so that was a great question. I really appreciate that. And if you need a follow-up to that, please ask that because that's one of the most serious questions that you can ask one.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next up will be Yanni with the Simpson Street Free Press.
Hi, Dr. Jenkins. My name is Yanni Taronka, and I am a student at Madison East High School. I'm also a teen editor at Simpson Street Free Press. And so the writers and editors at Simpson Street Free Press have spent a fair amount of time studying and reporting on the national debate about the reading of science, or the science of reading, excuse me. And we've been learning a lot about how low reading scores here in Madison contribute to our local achievement gap. So can you please discuss your thoughts on the science of reading debate and Madison's ongoing reading crisis?
Yanni, it's great to hear from you. You said Madison East, right?
Yeah.
Yanni, were you on the virtual discussion I had with students earlier?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. Well, great. Well, we're going to be having another discussion with students, and actually Julia is going to be setting it up where I'm going to be talking to students about your experience with online learning last spring and what you're hoping to happen as we open up in the fall. I'm going to have someone reach out to you to make sure that you can be in that conversation with us, okay, first of all.
Okay.
Secondly, about the reading debate, if I don't know, maybe you didn't hear, but I had said reading was going to be one of the priorities that I set coming in. And I'm glad you're talking about the science of reading. That's pretty heavy for you to be in that particular debate across the country right now. We're talking about actually the language essentials for teaching reading and spelling, which is going to get at this whole literacy piece. Most colleges right now offer one method course in reading, and students come to school, some with huge language gaps, 30, 40 million word gaps. And we're going into teaching methodologies. We're using teaching methodologies that are really not proven scientifically. So now with this whole part of letters, if you want to look that up, the letters piece, that's LETRS, Google that and look it up. It could add to your debate. So my thing is to come in and focus and get what has happened here in Madison, one, and what we need to do in this whole part of contributing to the achievement gap. I agree that if we don't teach them to read, they're not going to do well. Our students are not going to do well in mathematics. It's going to hurt our students in science. It's going to hurt our students in every area. That debate, and in fact, the student newspaper, I would love for you to invite me over so I could talk to you and your team, or one of you guys can come and interview me, because I would like to hear what you guys are saying about that debate. But right now, I think we do need to focus on that particular piece, and it contributes to more than just even the reading gaps. There's a direct correlation between reading levels and also incarceration. So I would like to further that discussion with you after this.
Okay, thank you so much. And those are all my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yanni. Next, Savannah Tomei.
Hey there, welcome home, Dr. Jenkins. What does it mean to you to be the first person of color to lead this district in this moment that so many people hope brings real effective change?
Well, for me, I think about it in terms of all the people that have come before me and the work that's been laid out. And I mean, early on, individuals fighting for different rights. And I'm a child, I always say I'm a residual of the Brown versus the Board of Education. And we have some individuals in our community who actually lived during the times of segregated times. And, you know, and then we have the whole women's right to vote. There are so many things that's historically that's happened. Some would almost say, well, it's about time we get a person of color. And it's not just about even having a person of color. If I say so myself, that I've been very fortunate to have some strategic positions that has led to my appointment here today. And I would hope that it wasn't just because I am an African American, that I bring something to the table to create opportunities for all children. But no, in no kind of way would I not say not to celebrate it, because it needs to be celebrated. But I hope that this appointment, saying to all of our children, to our community, yes, he may be the first, but they're going to be more. They're coming. And if we do our part, not only just as educators, but as a community, we'll move beyond this part of saying this is the first person of color. Tell me, coming out of Mississippi Valley State University, educational oasis for teaching and learning, and then coming up here, going to Madison, getting a master's and a PhD, what says that I should not be the superintendent in Madison Metropolitan School District? Put my credentials against anyone else's credentials and tell me why shouldn't I be? And that is the critical question we have to ask ourselves as we begin to deconstruct these practices that are sometimes deeply rooted in racism. And we have to call that out too and say no more. And I'm looking forward to, so to me, to answer your question, it says that we made some progress, but to be the first in 2020, it says to me that we have a lot of more work to do. We must develop anti-racist practices and live those out each and every day. And I'm not just saying in the school system, I'm talking right now to every other CEO equal to my position right now in business, in the law area, everywhere else. Each of us have a responsibility to not continue to say, well, we have the first in our law firm. We have the first in our company. We have the first. No, This move by Madison Metropolitan School District is sending a message to say to everyone else, why not us?
That's it for me. Thank you.
All right, next we'll move over to Jade with WORT.
Hi, yeah. First, I'll say it's about time. You're right. And then second, I would like to ask about the students that are coming when they start coming back to school. Right, they've had a experience with school that I don't think anyone else has ever had. Right, they've gone to virtual learning in the middle of a school year. A lot of them participated in protests and saw change happen. What do you have to say to these young adults and these future leaders in our community?
I have to say to them that they're going to go down in history as the group of children that changed our country and our world. They have a commonality that we've only talked about: global participation. Students in Madison, Wisconsin can call students in Shanghai and talk about their high school experience and have great similarities. They'll see more of a human decency than what we've been able to see in our lifetime, most of us. The beginning of this whole movement, they're participating in something at another level. When we did the civil rights movement before my time too, born in '65, but I wasn't quite able to get out there in March at my young age there. But they're going to be able to say, and I'm saying to our students, you are the change agents. And when we go back to Kennedy, and when he quoted and he said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. This is their time. This is your time, students everywhere. Your time to put your voice out there. Your time to participate in the movement to change it so that you don't have to have some of the conversations we'll continue to have. And to be honest, students are much further along than we are sometimes as adults. As they're thinking, they don't go right to race as their common denominator when they're selecting their friends. Now some do. I don't want to minimize that, because some students behave just as their parents have taught them. So, but I do believe that they have an opportunity right now to become the world leaders and participate globally like we never had. We had it in theory, but they have it in practice now. When I meet my colleagues around the world, sometimes there are huge differences. It has nothing to do with race, but these students have an opportunity to say, hey, you remember when we had our prom canceled? Do you remember when we couldn't participate in sports this spring? Do you remember when we couldn't? So they're going to have a lot of similarities. And I think from that, their strength is going to be greater. And I do want to remind us all, when we had the time of segregation and integration, there were some challenging times for those students then. Many of them have become world leaders in our time. And I just want to say that. So it's not like this is the only tough time in our history, but it's rare that you get a moment like these students have to really make it something special.
Yeah, thank you. And then just one more question, which is not super related, but why did you decide to do a hybrid press conference model as opposed to the virtual models we've been seeing since March?
Well, just coming here today, and when we do the virtual, sometimes it's just not that effect that we want to get. And I want to have an opportunity to have the board members here, and the board members talked about it, and we said, let's do it hybrid versus virtual. And, sometimes you're just trying to make the best decision, and either way you go in this time, you'll never make a perfect decision. But this is really good for us to make sure that we have the personal touch when we're dealing with our community. We're trying to build trust and hope in our community, right? So we're trying to give some of the people, sometimes when it's not unhealthy, we're trying to give them some of what they need.
Yeah, thank you so much, and welcome back to Madison.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you for your questions. Jennifer Cleasy is up next.
Hi, thanks for taking the time to do this today. Just one quick question for you, and you kind of touched a little bit on assessments and in this unprecedented time. So I just want to know, do you have any ideas in mind of how the district will work to make sure the achievement gap doesn't grow further during virtual learning as we start another semester of it?
That's an excellent question. And that's something my colleagues and I, we're really beating the bushes to make sure that every stone is turned over during this time. We know that the biggest barrier initially for us was making sure that the technology is there and alive. And one of the things I'm very proud of our district here is that how we went out and got the hotspots for all the students in our community that needed those, and that students could actually notify anyone that they didn't have access. And we were moving. Our technology department, they've just done a great job in terms of trying to make sure that happened. But also, we have to make sure during this time when we're doing online learning, we are connecting with those students, in particular those students who are most vulnerable. When they're not signing on or turning in their assignments, we're going to have to continue to send individuals out to their homes and trying to contact them in different ways. When during this time too, we have to make sure that we continue to feed our students. And it's very difficult to learn if we're not providing nutritional opportunities for our students. So, and that's a sign for us if students are not picking up the meals, because it's really unprecedented how we're taking the meals out to the bus stops and trying to make sure that our students get fed. That's a sign to us that there's some degree of absentee and that we need to do a follow-up with our students. I appreciate you thinking about those students who are most vulnerable, because you're right, across the country, we're talking about some of the students who are most vulnerable, who have the gaps have even increased for them. We have also seen some positives. Students who were not as engaged in schools find the online practice. Students who've been bullied, students who have different reasons, who are medically fragile, they can actually concentrate at a different level now than prior to the traditional setting. So we have to work on that too, and also continue to work on bullying even online when we have student groups, to make sure that we're monitoring those, and so that no student feel in any kind of way indifferent during our student meeting.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Ben Rederson. Ben, are you still with us? Elise, are you still with us?
Hi, I'm still here. Yep, I have a question, follow up to what you were talking about with increasing reading levels, especially right now when we're talking about how parents are concerned with their kids being away from the classroom and losing some of that progress they make in school, especially young kids. How do you plan to increase reading levels, especially during a time like now?
One of the things that we're going to do, and particularly during these unprecedented times, we know that we won't have necessarily the same setup, but what we're doing, we're learning. We're continuing to investigate what's going to be best practices. What we did in the spring, because that came upon us so quick, we did crisis learning around the country. We've learned a lot from that. Now we're going to move intentionally to online learning, but we have to make sure that we get the training to our staff. We have to have those discussions. What are the best practices now that we've moved to online learning? We're going to be looking at right now, what are the decisions we made prior to going in this situation? What do we need to make moving forward? So we're going to be putting the structures in place to assure that, first of all, the staff have the appropriate professional development that they need. And secondly, make sure we're communicating to the parents and communicating to the students specifically about how we're going to assist them. I can't tell you right now that it would be perfect, but I know that we're going to be looking at those things which are considered best practices. But because of the fact we don't know when this will change in terms of how we're doing it, in terms of online learning, I can't say with absolute certainty on all of it, but I just know we're going to investigate, first of all, the things that we're doing. How did that work last spring? We're going to look at other practices of online learning. How do we move forward? And then we will pivot as we need to if we're seeing that we're being effective or not.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So we have worked through our list of reporters. Are there any follow-up questions that any of you have?
Logan Rogie from the State Journal, if you don't mind. Maybe I also missed this earlier, but I'm just curious, Dr. Jenkins, what are some of your hobbies? What are some of the things you like to do when you're not working?
Well, if you ask my wife, she says she don't know when I'm not working. Because my mind just rolls through the night. I love data. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm a data geek, but for me, that's a hobby. That's something I like to do. I like looking at data, and but playing with my grandson now, I have an 8-month-old, and this young fellow has just changed my life. And I just love watching him grow each and every day. That's what I do. And a lot of my off time now, I'm going to try to spend it with him. And then I'm just a person who likes the mountains. So when I get a chance, I shoot off to the mountains, and I like to see the mornings of the mountains. And those are the types of things I do. But my reading, I'm reading, try to read it, I don't know, on various topics. A lot of them are education related, but I just like to do those types of things. Just an everyday person, I guess you say.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much.
I'd just like to thank you for really taking your time out to come and just hear from us today and be a part of this particular moment. And I just wish you well, because I know your jobs are tough and your jobs have also changed during these unprecedented times. And I ask you to take care of your health during these times, because you too are working yourselves like crazy. So thank you for taking time out to hear something about Madison Metropolitan School District. Thank all of you.